Are you planning a trip to Istanbul? Then you have come to the right place. We're Jess and Miles, and whether you need help with where to stay, how to get around, what to eat, or what to do while you're here, we have you covered. Our goal here is to help you feel fully prepared and ready for your trip to Istanbul.
In today's video, we're going to share 10 things you must know before visiting Istanbul for the first time. At this point, we have spent years in Istanbul and we are still learning new things, but these tips should put you way ahead of where we were when we first visited Istanbul 4 years ago.
First up, let's talk about how much time we think you should dedicate to seeing Istanbul. Everyone has different priorities and travel styles, so this is going to vary, but anyone coming to Istanbul should try their best to set aside at least 3 to 5 days. Istanbul is a very big city with a lot to see and do, so 3 full days really is the minimum. With 3 days, you should be able to check off a few of the top sites, enjoy the incredible food, maybe fit in a fun experience or two like a hammam or a cooking class, and hopefully still have the time to visit at least one of the lesser known neighborhoods.
3 days will still have you very busy, so don't expect any slow days. If you're looking for a slower pace and Istanbul is a real priority for you, you should really consider extending your time a little bit. We see so many people come to Turkey and try to fit in too much. And sure, we've made 24-hour videos to try and show what there is to see, but by no means do we recommend you only spend 24 hours in Istanbul. Give yourself the time to do more than just check off a list of must-see sites. I promise you won't regret it.
And on that note, we think it is important to stress that Istanbul is way more than just Sultanahmet Square. If you're in the middle of planning your trip, we are going to bet you know where Hagia Sophia is, and the Grand Bazaar, and maybe even Galata Tower over here on the Northern Peninsula. That is a really great start, but it is important to be aware that Istanbul is way more than just these areas.
Istanbul has 39 different districts, and no matter how much time you have here, there's no way you'll be able to see it all. And by no means are we recommending that you try. But if you really want to get a feel for the city, it's definitely worth exploring beyond the historic center. Balat is a really popular neighborhood not far from the historical sites. Cihangir is a really cool area just a few steps down from Istiklal Street. And Bebek and Arnavutköy are some of our favorite neighborhoods right along the water.
If you are venturing over to the Asian side, which you definitely should, Moda is a must-see, and the lesser-known Kuzguncuk is also one of our absolute favorites. You can take a day trip out to the Princess Islands or ride the ferry up the Bosphorus nearly to the Black Sea and enjoy a seaside lunch in a charming fishing village. The bottom line is, with an extra day or two and a little bit of research, you can enjoy parts of the city that most visitors don't even know are here.
Another big piece of advice we would give someone visiting Istanbul for the first time is to be prepared for the crowds. Like we just mentioned, Istanbul is a massive city with somewhere around 20 million people, so it's important to be prepared for the crowds and have a plan for your day. We always recommend visiting the site you're most excited about first thing in the morning. For example, if Hagia Sophia is top on your list, be sure to be there right when it opens. If you're really into Ottoman history, maybe consider going to Topkapi Palace first thing. Being there right when it opens will give you the best possible chance of avoiding at least some of the crowds.
We get that this is not always possible, and you obviously cannot see every site first thing in the morning. So for this reason, you might consider buying some of your tickets in advance, and that brings us to the sponsor of today's video, GetYourGuide. We first started using GetYourGuide a few years ago when Hagia Sophia started charging entry fees. We were surprised to learn that there was no official seller to buy these tickets online and in advance, and that is when we found GetYourGuide. This is an online platform, and they have a lot of great skip-the-line tickets for the main sites throughout Istanbul, and depending on when you visit, this can save you a ton of time.
They also offer over 100,000 different activities in 150 countries. And if you've seen any of our other videos, you know we always recommend doing more than just checking off a list of must-see sites. Definitely make sure you plan an experience or two while you're here, whether that's a sunset Bosphorus cruise, a cooking class, a food tour, or a hammam experience. There is something for everyone, and it will definitely enrich your experience while you're in Istanbul. And GetYourGuide makes things super easy. They offer 24/7 support and free cancellation up to 24 hours before your booking. We will include a link in the description and the pinned comments, or you can scan this QR code to check them out. Okay, back to the list.
Next up is where to stay. We're not going to go into too much detail here because we have a full video on this. In fact, if you're looking for more detailed information on any of these topics, we have full videos on most of them. But just as a brief overview, you have Sultanahmet and Sirkeci on the Southern Peninsula. Both of these would put you a short walk or tram ride away from the main sites like Hagia Sophia, the Blue Mosque, Basilica Cistern, and Topkapi Palace. Moving over to the Northern Peninsula, you have Karaköy around the waterfront area. A little further up, you have Galata and Cihangir, and these are great options as well.
There's a range of different hotels, plenty of restaurants, and pretty easy access to public transit. Istanbul is very hilly though, so keep that in mind, especially around the Galata and Cihangir neighborhoods. Most visitors tend to stay in one of these areas, and this is for very good reason. It will really help you maximize your time during a short visit to the city.
Alternatively, if you have a little more time or you're looking for something a little more local, you could consider Kadıköy on the Asian side of Istanbul. This is where we stay, and it is our absolute favorite. You can still easily get to the European side with the Marmara, or even better with the ferry, and it would only take you about 40 minutes to get to the main sites, even from over here.
But honestly, as much as we really love this neighborhood, we personally wouldn't recommend it for anyone who doesn't have at least maybe 5 days in the city. With anything fewer than 5 days, it's probably best just to get a hotel on the European side, because more often than not, that's where your day will both start and end.
Moving right along, I know what you may be thinking. We spent a bunch of time earlier telling you to get out of the historic center, and now we're telling you it's best to stay in or around the historic center. And that brings us to number 5 on our list, which is getting familiar with public transit. You really cannot see Istanbul without it. But I have some good news for you. The public transit here is great. You have the metro, trams, buses, ferries. In between all of these options and your 2 feet, you should be able to get yourself around the city very easily.
The public transit here in Istanbul is very easy to use, and it's also very inexpensive. Just get yourself an Istanbul card, load it up with some money, and you're good to go. Don't overthink it. There are machines everywhere, and we have an entire video on just getting the Istanbul card, plus another video on how to get around the city, basically using every type of public transit.
Also, as a side note, since we're on the topic of getting around the city, you should know that there are 2 main airports in Istanbul. You have IST on the European side and SAW on the Asian side. Both of these are over an hour away from the city center, so make sure you have a plan on how to get from the airport to the city, and preferably before you arrive. We also have a whole video on that. And spoiler alert, a private transfer is roughly the same price as a taxi, and we have included a link in the description for the company we use every time we fly in or out.
We also wanted to take the time to call out taxis separately. There are obviously plenty of taxis all throughout Istanbul, and this is an option to get around the city. However, we personally avoid taxis as much as possible, and it would be our recommendation that you do the same. There are a few different reasons for this, and we do want to explain. Frankly, taxis in the city can be an absolute nightmare, mostly just because of the traffic. And with such a great public transit system, taking the metro, tram, or ferry is almost always a better option. We should say that public transit is usually also very crowded, but at least it will get you to your destination quickly, oftentimes faster than a taxi.
But beyond just the traffic, taxis can be very hard to get depending on where you are in the city and where you're trying to go. Taxis are also one of the most common ways travelers get scammed anywhere in the world. We see this everywhere we go, and Istanbul is no exception. In the event you do need to take a taxi, we highly recommend you do this through the Uber app and pay with a credit card. Uber in Istanbul is just going to call you a taxi, not a private car, but you will at least be able to see the pricing range of what the trip should cost you up front, and then you'll be able to pay through the app. This should, in theory, alleviate some of the very common taxi scams.
That said, even if you are using the Uber app, there are a few things that you should be aware of, and these are just based on our own personal experiences using Uber in the city. The first one is that if you're just trying to go a short distance, especially in the more touristy areas, it can take a long time to get an Uber to accept your ride, and sometimes they just don't accept at all. We have also had drivers accept our ride, and then when they do show up, they tell us that the price is going to be 2 or even 3 times as much as what it says in the app. When this does happen, we of course tell them no, and they drive off, leaving us to just try again.
Once you start a ride with Uber, the meter will be running inside the taxi, and the driver will be the one who's responsible for entering the fare into the app once the ride is complete. We have had on more than one occasion a driver enter a higher amount than what was actually on the meter, so now we just wait until they enter the correct amount, and then we get out of the car. As a heads up, Uber does charge a booking fee on top of the fare, so the final total amount is going to be higher than what the meter shows, but this should be listed as a separate line item in the app. To wrap this section up, unless you're going a long distance like to or from the airport, it is almost always better to use public transit over a taxi. It is going to be cheaper and oftentimes faster.
All right, moving right along, let's talk about something we get asked all the time, and that's what things cost here in Istanbul and how we pay for things. The local currency is the Turkish lira, and currently $1 US is around 42 Turkish lira. But depending on when you visit, this might not mean very much because it does change quite frequently. It's important just to familiarize yourself with the exchange rate before you arrive. No matter where we travel, we always try to memorize roughly what 10 US dollars is in the local currency. So currently 10 US dollars is around 420 Turkish lira. This really helps if we're at a restaurant, for example, and something's 800 Turkish lira, we know in the back of our head it's roughly $20.
As far as paying for things, most places throughout Istanbul will accept most major credit cards. That said, it is still beneficial to carry cash and specifically the local currency. Some of the more local spots might only accept cash. Also, if you're trying to negotiate in the bazaars, it can definitely be helpful to have cash. And finally, cash will oftentimes be needed for tipping.
We do recommend that you have the local currency, the Turkish lira, and not just walk around with US dollars or euros. That's not to say places won't accept that money, but you're gonna get hit with a conversion rate both when you pay and when you get change. So it's always best, in our opinion, to just have the local currency and negotiate in the local currency as opposed to US dollars or euros.
As far as how to access money in Istanbul, we don't usually go to exchange offices, although there are plenty. We typically just go to the ATMs that you'll find all over the city. But you should definitely be aware that many of these will charge pretty high ATM fees. I think some of them are even up to 10% of what you're withdrawing, which can definitely add up. We have a debit card from Charles Schwab that actually reimburses us for ATM fees, so this isn't quite as big of a deal for us. But there are a few ATMs in Istanbul that don't charge fees. I know Ziraat Bankasi is one of them, but it's still important to check with your own bank for any fees they're going to charge on their end, and be sure you always decline the ATM's currency conversion option.
And back to the topic of tipping, just as a side note, it's definitely not mandatory, but it is appreciated, and as a foreign tourist, it's more or less expected. We personally tip around 10% at restaurants, and typically the same for things like guided experiences. And as a heads up regarding restaurants, if you're at one of the more touristy restaurants, they do oftentimes add a service fee, so be on the lookout for that on your bill. But a lot of times service isn't included on the bill, and if you're paying with a credit card, there's usually not an easy way to add a tip, which is another reason why we recommend carrying local currency.
Next up, we want to quickly mention visas. The rules actually changed a couple of years ago, and since we still have some older videos floating out there with the outdated information, we thought it would be helpful to give you the updated info. US citizens with ordinary passports, along with many other nationalities, can enter Turkey visa-free for up to 90 days. There's no need to fill out any application or pay any fees, just get on the plane and head on over. Many countries do still have visa requirements, so we have included all the important links in the description below. First, you can check whether or not you need a visa. If you do, there is a second link to see if you're eligible for an e-visa, and if you are, we have also included the official e-visa application site.
Okay, moving right along, let's talk about language. The local language is Turkish, and while you'll likely encounter plenty of people who speak English, especially in the touristy areas, English is not as widely spoken throughout Istanbul as you might think. Chances are pretty high that you will encounter at least one person that does not speak any English. I'd say about 75% of the encounters that we have over on the Asian side in our neighborhood are with people who don't speak any English at all.
In the touristy areas and restaurants, you'll usually find at least someone who speaks English, but honestly, if you don't eat at least once in a place where no one speaks English, you're missing out on some of the best, most authentic spots. It's always great to learn at least a couple words or phrases in the local language when you travel. Even if you say it terribly wrong, locals will genuinely appreciate the effort. A simple hello or merhaba is a great way to greet people when you walk into a shop or restaurant, and saying günaydın, which means good morning, is also a really great way to greet people in the morning.
Another important thing to know when you travel is thank you. And I feel like the harder it is to say thank you in a language, the more the locals appreciate it when you try. And Turkish has one of the harder ones. Thank you in Turkish is teşekkür ederim. If you practice it a few times before you come, you can really brighten people's day when you say it. And since hello and thank you will only get you so far, it's important to be prepared with the Google Translate app. You can take pictures of things like menus, and in most cases, Turkish people are very patient with visitors and will gladly have a conversation with you through Google Translate if you find yourself in this situation.
And one final tip, especially for us Americans who want to get our bill right when we're done eating, hesap is what you say at a restaurant when you're asking for the bill. In Turkey, people generally take their time over a meal, so if you have somewhere you need to be, just think of ASAP, add an H to it, and that will help you get your waiter's attention.
Also, don't just do this when you're trying to get the bill. Chances are they'll just bring you tea.
This is the sign for tea.
You're stirring a
like
little
you're
tea
stirring.
glass. And finally, for number 10, we're gonna do a little rapid fire session because we have quite a bit more to cover. Like staying connected, what to wear, the alcohol and smoking culture, the bathrooms, and of course, the lovely cats and dogs here in Istanbul. Let's jump right in with staying connected.
There are local SIM cards, and the three main ones are Turkcell, Vodafone, and Turk Telecom. They're all pretty similar. We have used both Turkcell and Vodafone in the past. The tourist plan is typically for 30 days. It comes with 20 gigs, and at least the last time we purchased one, I think it was around $30 to $35. Typically, the prices are higher in the airport than in the city, so it's always best to wait until you get to the city if you can.
In the past, we've also used several different eSIMs like Airlo or Maya Mobile. It is important to note that as of recently, Turkey has blocked many of the eSIM providers. If you have already purchased and activated your eSIM before you arrive in Turkey, it often continues to work. But once you're in Turkey, it may be difficult to access these apps and websites, which can make topping up or new activations pretty difficult.
Connecting through your home carrier is a popular option if you're only here for a few days, or you can always just wing it and rely on the Wi-Fi at hotels and restaurants, but honestly, we wouldn't really recommend this option. Just keep in mind that Istanbul is a very big city and it requires quite a bit of navigation, and relying on offline versions of maps or Google Translate could leave you in a tight spot if you're not careful.
Okay, let's move on to attire. And being a majority Muslim country, attire is something you do want to consider before visiting Turkey, especially if you're going to visit areas outside of Istanbul. Turkey is a secular country, so there are no laws on what you can and cannot wear. And in Istanbul in particular, being a major metropolitan city, you can essentially wear whatever you want, and chances are there'll be somebody else wearing something similar.
You might attract a little extra attention depending on your choice, but ultimately that's up to you. But at the same time, it is important to be respectful as a visitor. Some neighborhoods are more conservative than others, so what might be normal in one neighborhood could be considered offensive in another. For this reason, we generally advise people to dress more conservatively. In addition to that, when visiting a mosque, you must dress appropriately, which means covering your legs and shoulders, and women must also cover their hair while inside.
Since visitors to Istanbul usually plan to go into at least one mosque, it's best to plan your wardrobe so you're not taking pictures inside Hagia Sophia wearing a paper skirt because you chose to wear shorts. And finally, let's talk about shoes. Istanbul is a very hilly city. The sidewalks and streets are often uneven. There's a lot of cobblestone, so be sure to pack comfortable walking shoes. You will thank yourself for it.
Okay, the next quick note is about alcohol. If you're used to visiting European countries and sitting outside at a cafe with a nice view and a glass of wine, you may need to adjust your expectations a little bit. While alcohol is available in Istanbul, it is not as prevalent. Many local restaurants don't serve alcohol at all, and many of the cafes are serving tea and not wine.
Don't get us wrong, there are plenty of really nice rooftops where you can find yourself a cocktail. But they can be a bit expensive, and some cocktails are better than others, and generally speaking, the wine is not our favorite. The local beer is a decent alternative. At the very least, it's consistent and generally pretty widely available. Just know before you come that alcohol isn't as ingrained in the culture as it is in places in Europe, in the US, for example, so you will have to be a little bit more intentional about finding it if that's what you're looking for.
On the flip side, Turkey does have a very strong smoking culture, so that is something to keep in mind if you are sensitive to cigarette smoke. Honestly, you really can't avoid it, so it's best just to be prepared.
Okay, let's talk about the cats and dogs. Istanbul has a very high number of stray animals, mostly cats, but also some dogs. Even though these are stray animals, most of them have what we would call multiple owners that take very good care of them. You'll see piles of food and bowls of water all around the city. If you get up early, you'll oftentimes see the people responsible for those piles of food, and you'll even see some small cat houses strung around the city as well.
I honestly love this about Istanbul. There is nothing better than seeing a full-grown Turkish man stop and play with a little kitten on his way to work. In all seriousness, I do think it says a lot about the people here, seeing how they treat the animals.
And finally, let's round out this video with the super random but also important topic of the bathrooms. There are public toilets around the city that you do have to pay a small fee to enter. At most of them, you can use your Istanbul card, which is just another reason why you should get one. Pro tip here, most of the mosques around the city also have bathrooms, and they're usually free to enter. And since there are thousands of mosques around the city, if you find yourself needing to go and you don't see a public toilet, just look for the nearest mosque.
Honestly, you can also ask most restaurants to use their toilet if you are desperate. I've done this many times and I don't think anyone has ever told me no. And one final note on this topic, squat toilets are prevalent throughout the city. There are definitely plenty of Western toilets too, and some bathrooms will actually have both squat toilets and Western toilets, and this will usually be marked on the door. But you may find yourself in the situation where a squat toilet is your only option, so just a heads up on that.
All right, that's going to do it for us today. And if you're looking for more information as you plan your trip, be sure to check out our many other videos of Istanbul. Also, don't forget, we offer a complete digital guide of Istanbul for just $9.99. It has everything you need in one place, and it has helped thousands of people plan the perfect trip.
If you found this video helpful, we would really appreciate it if you would give it a thumbs up and leave us a comment down below. And as always, thank you so much for watching.